So, Tosin, let's go to another thing now. The last time we spoke about resetting your metabolism, and you just gave an entry into that just now. So, I want us to enter that now. So, some people had asked that question: that how can you reset your metabolism? In
Uh,
reality, I think we've already explained it, but let's
yeah.
quickly just highlight it particularly now and say, okay, this is what to do.
Okay. I think, to be very honest, it's an interesting question when say resetting your metabolism. And what I always like to stress for everybody, and I do, like, I have to always remind people everybody is an individual in themselves. What will work for person A may not necessarily always work for person B. There are basic principles we can give out to people, but everybody's body is different in some form or another. Now, before we talk about resetting your metabolism, I think the first thing I have to point out to people is when we talk about metabolism, one of the things we are talking about is, one, we are looking at what's your metabolic rate, your basal metabolic rate. Are you in a state where your body takes its time to expend or burn energy, or are you in a state where your body knows how to burn energy and distribute it? Now, there are some theories out there that your body has a finite, a limited or set budget of energy and decides how to distribute it during the day. I mean, that's one theory that's out there. I've not explored it completely, I'll be very honest, but it does have some basic what do you call it, sense behind it, and in a way. So you've got to set an amount of energy, and your body can choose, look, I can't burn all this energy, let's store it up and put it more into the fat cells. So that you see some people, they have so much energy, but they still feel tired. So you find it like, because ideally, any fat cells are a big source of energy. So you have to ask yourself, why is that you see some people that are overweight and they just tell you they are tired? They're always tired because the energy, that the way their metabolic rate is set up is not set up to burn energy. It's set up to be able to store energy in different places. So coming back, how do we start thinking about resetting this? Now, metabolic flexibility comes to mind. One, a lot of people are used to only burning one source of energy, and that is glucose.
Hmm.
Back in our ancestral times, if you think about it, when our ancestors started their day in the morning, one of the things they might need to want to do is to go and source for food, source for water, and source for their nutrients. They didn't just wake up and the fridge was there. Hey, here you go, bread, fry your sausage, egg. It wasn't like that. They had to go out and go and hunt for the food. And they would go hours in the morning before they find the food. It's not like the antelope will be sitting there and be like, hey, I'm here. Come and get me. I'm your food right now. Or that the world might have some things like they are growing some tubers of yam and what do you call that? They will now harvest and start cooking. Those were things that were there. So your body had to adapt to the fact that you do not necessarily have constant inflow of glucose, and was adapting to other sources of energy like the ketones, or down regulating your metabolic rate or up regulating it. So when I say reset, what I mean by is that you've got to get your body to a state where, one, you are able to start being metabolically flexible. Your body can, to at this time, decide that it wants to burn ketones because you don't have any glucose running around freely, which is good because your insulin is down, or the other way. And one of the best tools to do that is fasting. Interestingly, fasting.
Yeah.
And I think the way I look at it is, I think I mentioned this the last time, is um for your whole longevity, fasting and your health, there are about three, I think I call it the three levers that we pull. One is caloric restriction. So you have a food with you, you limit the type of calories that are there. Predominantly, I am a proponent more of limiting the carbohydrate intake
Yes.
that you have. I mean, other people do limiting fat intake, and I have no problem with that. Everybody is different. I just have
Yes.
seen better results with people limiting the amount of carbohydrates on their plates to start with. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
mean that you have to go all out and put lots of fat as well, but you have to limit the carbohydrates. That's the first lever, calorie restriction. Now, the second thing is what we've talked about, restricting the time restriction, the window within which you eat. So, depending on what people do, the commonest one out there people do is they skip breakfast and try and have their meals between a setting between 12 and 8. Interestingly, funny enough, I'm finding out now from it's just latest research that actually the ideal window might actually be between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Interestingly, I've not tried that theory out. It's a new theory that I'm probably going to work through for the next 6 months and see how it favors me or how it favors clients that I'm working with. But one of the theories is that there are some certain hormones you release in your body. Ghrelin and leptin are the two hormones. Leptin is produced by your fat cells. Ghrelin is produced in your brain and works on your, that's like your hunger hormone. And that's when it's highest. So the logic is you satisfy those hormones where they are the highest. And by that time, your cortisol level has peaked enough for you to digest and all that stuff anyway. But towards the evening time, because the what we call the circadian rhythm is getting your body ready to rest, they believe that last meal at 4 o'clock may actually be better. I'm not sure whether between 4 and 7 will make too much of a difference personally, but it's just stuff I'm just coming across anyway. I think it is the quantity. I think we've talked about quantity, calorie, time restriction. I've forgotten for interesting. That just escaped me, but to come back. But those three levers are what we pull to help reset the metabolism. Essentially, what happens is that you go through a period of time while you are doing this. And from people, the aim is to get you feeling more energetic if you are not feeling up to that, and is to get you to a state where you are actually more vibrant than you usually are. That's one of the steps. And depending on what state you are, sometimes we do baseline blood tests first to start with to determine, one, are you pre-diabetic? Because I see a lot of people that are over the age of 40 and are carrying some level of truncal obesity are actually pre-diabetic. When I say pre-diabetic, we wouldn't class them as being type 2 diabetic yet, but they are in that range. There's a small range of people that fall in that thing. When you check the HbA1c, they're actually in that state. So that actually causes us to look at things from that. And you do the blood test and see how much of that you can reverse for them. So that metabolic reset, the metabolic reset can work through that, looking at the blood test and working backward from that. So when we say reset metabolism, we sometimes have to back it up with parameters as well. Some of those parameters will include things like your glucose level, what we call the HbA1c. That's your what's the term for it? Your long range sugars, and we can use that to look at what the metabolism looks like.
Very, very nice one, Doctor. Thanks so much for that.
No worries.